sim rigs and VR? What about motorbikes and VR? What about motorbikes and sim rigs? Man, we've got a whole new topic. I have been riding superbikes in one form or another for many, many years. Haven't been riding for the last few years. I sold my last bike that I had, the KTM 1290 Super Duke. That thing was an absolute weapon. Man, it could stand on one wheel in nearly every single gear under power. It was an absolute machine. Getting a bit older now, and I find this thing behind me is a little bit safer. You know, I can have some pretty extreme crashes and then go to the fridge and grab a beer. That thing, you're in big trouble, potentially dead. But I feel like I am well qualified to speak on this new topic. For some time, I have dreamt of how I can possibly ride motorbikes in the sim rig on that massive 55-inch Samsung Odyssey Arc, which is awesome. I'm still dabbling in the VR side of it. There's a few tweaks I still need to do to get that just right. But the fact of the matter is, after trawling the internet, seeing what some others had come up with, a couple of genius ideas by some of the posts I saw. However, this is the most simplistic design that I could possibly come up with. And the benefit is I'm using the SimMagic Ultimate base. Now, all the SimMagic bases I'm sure are going to do this. And one of the benefits with this base is that it does not need any type of electrical input back through to the base for the system to work, meaning that I have literally got a hub bolted to a very, very basic rudimentary steering wheel. It's the most simplest one that I could get my hands on. It cost me all of $140 so that I could actually Frankenstein these handlebars to it. Not really even handlebars. The OD on this tube is incorrect, but I managed to shoehorn some push bike hand grips on. And 25 mil is this tube. The internal diameter of these hand grips I think is meant to be 22, but I managed to get them on. And bit of insulation tape, bit of Velcro. I mean, what Frankensteining is complete without Velcro and Incho tape. Plus, just to make sure that they didn't move and they would stay in position, a couple of hose clamps on there. We're going to throw it on the bench in a minute and have a good look, as we do with most of these things. But where I'm going with this is that, oh my gosh, Isle of Man TT riding on the edge with this is out of this world. Let's check it out. Gear shifts on just the shutter. Oh! I mean, we are moving now. What are we doing? 210. Whew. Feeling that on the shifts. We're at 230. Oh. We've hung on to it. Oh, I wanted to spin me off there. Oh, she's a widowmaker, this thing. Oh, that was beautiful. Oh my gosh, I feel like I need a cold shower after that. That is white knuckle, high speed action in the rig on a motorbike. Man, you feel like you're there. I thought I'd throw another picture up back in the day, 2007 Speed Triple, me just doing a cheeky little power wheelie. Anyway, let's have a look at how I made it all happen.
First bit of software we're going to look at is the voice meter potato. Basically, this allows us to run virtual inputs. What we're going to need to do to get the butt kickers to work is have all the audio going through basically one source so that we can have sound, engine, revving, those sorts of things translated into the vibration of the butt kickers. And setting this up can be a little complicated, but there's tutorials online. I'll put links to this software. There might be other software out there can do it, but in essence, I've got my butt kickers coming through one channel, and then I've got my headset, my headphones, going through another channel. Then what we do is we basically run a virtual sound card, and we turn the PC audio to point at that sound. Again, it can get a bit confusing. This video is not meant to be in detail on setting up Voicemeeter Potato, but I'll put some links in the description to help step you through it. The next bit of software is going to be the motion software for the rig itself. Now, there is other versions of software out there, but whether or not it can do motion to axis or motion to joystick inputs, I'm not sure. SRS Studio does this, and it does it really well. So for this instance, once we fired up SRS, go into Setup. It's within here that we can navigate down to the joystick option, and I've configured a profile wheel for steering, and you can see here SimMagic Alpha, my wheelbase, left axis is an input to move the rig to the left, right axis is an input to move the rig to the right. And you can see that just by me moving the steering there, left and right, we're getting axis input. That then correlates to motion. Again, for acceleration and brake, so I've got the V&M pedal as the throttle, and that will move the rig backwards, so I'm getting that sensation of accelerating. And then when I put my foot on the brake, it will tip the rig forward, and I get that sensation of the rig braking. You can control how much that moves within this software by going into the motion area. I'll just turn that on so we actually get some effect tuning. And you can see here I've tuned the pitch, the roll, and what I want those parameters to correlate in regards to the sim rig. You've got to tune all this stuff in here. Plenty of videos online and tutorials. Again, I'll put some links in the description. Then the last little bit of the puzzle for this side of it is the wheelbase itself. You're going to want to tune all of the dampening, the mechanical friction. I've got it dialed in so that it actually feels, when you're stationary, it actually feels like there is a tyre touching bitumen. And when you turn the steering, you can feel that stiff friction. And once the bike starts to accelerate and you're under, you're basically underway and moving quick, you've got that you've got that gyroscope effect where you've really got to lean the bike or counter steer. You get that stiffness through the steering. It's imperative that you adjust the steering settings so that the angle is at 90. If you set this to 90, basically lock to lock is almost one-to-one how it feels on a motorbike, where you hit the bump stops on the steering column, and it feels perfect. You've got nice precise steering inputs. Make sure it's set to 90, tweak all your force feedback settings, and you are good to go. Okay, last little bit of this puzzle is the joystick emulator. So what this will do is emulate a Xbox controller. The game I'm playing, and a lot of these motorbike games seem to have Xbox sort of native inputs. It's just almost impossible, I've found, to map any of my wheelbase or axis from the pedals to the game. This circumvents that. So basically, once you've fired up this software and gone through the tutorials to set it all up, I've got my V&M pedals here, and I've got the SimMagic wheelbase here. If we have a look, the thumbstick, which you would normally use on a controller to steer left and right, you can actually see that axis moving there, and that correlates to the motion that we've set in the actual rig. So now the rig is moving left and right in regards to that axis input. Much like the throttle, which is the right index finger. If I put my throttle down, you can see that the index finger trigger is actuating. That is then correlating to an axis in the motion rig, and same with the brake, the left hand trigger. Okay, and then the inputs, you can see we've got the right hand trigger here. That is accelerate, and that is inputting as an axis into the SRS motion software and correlates as movement. And then the left hand trigger is brake, and that is also correlating to motion to tip the rig forward. There's a few little bits and pieces to understand about configuring all of this, but probably the most important one once you've got all of this working is if we actually go to the SimMagic Alpha wheelbase, and then we can actually have a look at this little option of tabs along the bottom here, and there's a force feedback one. Click on the force feedback. Make sure you tick enable. I've gone through all of these different parameters, and I find the periodic sign is the best. Now, it's really cool. They give you a bit of instruction down here about what's what and what you should have. And you can see here, if your controller have only one motor, bit of a spelling or a typo there. If your controller have only one motor, then force feedback effects will be merged automatically. Values sent by the game to the left motor, which is used to simulate large explosions, crashes, guns, fire, etc. Bloody, bloody, blada. You can reduce strength of the right motor to simulate small force feedbacks, bloody, bloody, blada. Game pads must use constant effect type. Wheels must use periodic type effect. And honestly, it feels incredible. I am actually getting rumble strips, I'm getting curbs, getting little tank slappers that are being fed through it. You can adjust all these parameters here, but that is what is adding that additional layer of immersion and giving me feedback through my steering wheel. It's mind-blowing.
Here we find ourselves on the workbench. Now let's have a look and see what we've actually done here. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, gone with one of the most basic, cheapest wheels I could find, and I think the these particular type of like Formula One race car wheels, carbon fibre. I was going to cut this rubber off it, but I've left it for now, so I might modify this in further testing. I had some aluminium tube actually for the bimini, the shade cover off our boat in the shed, and I managed to cut it up and make it work for this. Really just as an experiment first off, before I go too deep with looking at maybe putting on some proper superbike racing clip-on handlebars. Bit of incho tape there just to keep them stable. Velcro, really just used that initially so that I could remove it, re-strap it, but Velcroed that down nice and tight. Underneath the insulation tape here is some hose clamps, metal hose clamps, and they are really acting as the main clamp to keep everything nice and secure, and they really are nice and rigid. There's a little bit of flex and play in there, but not a massive amount. And for what we're doing in the sim rig, the force feedback you'll see in the video shortly is not as aggressive as you would normally have, because I'm using some basically some emulator software to give us force feedback. Hand grips, they are just off from a push bike shop, but they're just some mountain bike hand grips. And they were able to be wiggled onto this. I think the internal diameter of these is 22 for a standard push bike. This tube is 25. So if you're struggling to get some cheap alley tube from a hardware store or somewhere, honestly 25 will still cut it. You just have to be a bit patient in squeezing that on. And yeah, it was really straightforward to get them on. Now, just for some dimensions, so we are dealing with just over 12 inches there. We'll flip it over, and we're talking 31 centimeters. It's probably 30 centimeters the end of the tube. There's a little bit of give in the end of that, and yeah, cut that tube, clamp that on, tape it down. Bit of the Velcro, and Bob's your uncle. Right, flip her over. I'm using a SimMagic quick release hub, and there's no smarts going on here. I believe the Fanatec wheelbases will not work unless you've actually got the wheel attached to it, and it's detecting that wheel. So your mileage may vary. You might want to test your wheelbase before going down this path. Look, I get that obviously the steering side of it is not how you ride a motorbike. But again, this is where I think I'm well qualified, because the immersion that I'm getting from actually riding the Simrig with a handlebar setup like this, even though I'm steering it, is just incredible. It's almost some hybrid Frankenstein that I've never felt before. So pretty straightforward off the bench today. Let's jump in the Simrig and take this thing for a ride. We are on the ZX10 Kawasaki Ninja. I used to have one of these, not this newer model, but I used to have one of the older ones, the 2005 ZX10, I think it was. Man, that thing was a widowmaker. Anyway, here we are. So we're in the rig. You can see we've got full motion, left and right. Plus, if I accelerate or brake, we've got pitch. And man, this is absolutely wild. So I'll go through some of the specifics on how we managed to get all that programmed and working in a minute. But for now, let's go for a blast. And I don't know if you can see that actually. I've got haptics going through the wheelbase so that we're getting a bit of a shudder when you take off. I mean, that's not realistic. You know, you don't get that in a real bike. But when you brake, you get a little bit of a shudder. But tank slappers, oh my God. I know I've had a couple of tank slappers in my time. One nearly killed me. I came off at 160 k's an hour, broke my collarbone, lost all the skin off me. I was in bad shape. So yeah, I kind of know what tank slappers feel like. But anyway, enough flapping my gums. Let's go. So we're at the Isle of Man. Oh man, I cannot explain. Oh boy. Oh, we're in trouble. I'm still tuning the steering so that we can get it as close as 1-to-1. It's a bit tricky though, because these bikes want to just all of a sudden roll in and just fall over. So, you know, I'm dialing it in, but we've got rain on, everything's happening. And man, I cannot explain the sense of speed. See, it's a bit twitchy there where it just wants to, it's not linear. It almost wants to ramp and then pull you down. So we'll have to tweak that. All right, here we go. We're flat. Oh mate, on gear shift, you're literally feeling a shudder through the steering. Now look, I am using throttle pedal and throttle brake. Which, okay, I'm hearing it, right? Like lots of years are saying, well, hang on, you said that you'd ridden super bikes for years and, you know, this is super realistic. Look, I've considered working on putting a throttle on this thing and it's doable. I've got some ways of making that happen, and I might, but this is just some hybrid machine. I can't explain it. Like I'm accelerating and I'm going back. I mean, I'm sitting in a seat. So I'm not actually, you know, straddling the bike and being able to use my legs, and I'm not counter steering and all of that stuff. But I mean, I might as well just go and buy another bike. I'm in my Simrig in the comfort of my own home. Oh, when you brake, you fully get pushed forward. It's so cool. I've got the butt kickers. I'm feeling engine vibration. I'm feeling it through my feet as well. So, you know, maybe that's tricking the brain, that sensation of the foot pegs, and I really am feeling, whoa. I felt all that too, like all the ridges and the bumps over the grass then. All right, here we go, we're going for it. Oh, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. As you can see there, using the throttle to accelerate and then brake, it works. It just works. Yeah, I've got to be honest. This is scratching the itch that I have to get back on the street and make a nuisance of myself. This is just beyond words, man. Oh, we're putting in some spot. We're dead. Oh, we're dead. Oh, bloody brilliant. All right, and that's a wrap. There you have it. The video of the sim rig on the superbikes at the Isle of Man, and how I made this, pretty easy handlebar setup for the sim rig. And then thought I'd throw a couple more pics up. That's my old R1. Which model was that? I think that was a 2008 R1. Love that bike. The only problem was, had a really tall first gear. Had to change the sprockets and muck around to get that thing to wheelie good. But other than that, that's a wrap.